Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and thank you for joining us for a special edition of McJeffrey 500. It is the podcast where I count down my 500 favorite films and then make my friends watch them one movie at a time. It is August 20th, 2015, and we are doing a group podcast.
Whoa!
Yep, and we actually got my microphone this time, because last time we used Rob's classic, the Robocock, and the sound was pretty terrible, and I apologize for that, so now the sound will be less terrible.
Are you criticizing the Robocock?
I'm saying it was a dated microphone, and I sounded good, and I could barely hear everyone. I got all the volumes up.
Was it running Windows 3.1? How dated could this microphone
I know. What
be?
are you running on this fucking laptop of yours?
Whatever came on this $250 laptop that I purchased a few months
Windows
back.
98.
So, we actually, for the first time, I think this is the first time we've had this combination, Mr. Scott, Mr. Rob, Mr. Paul.
Oh, yeah, I think this is Paul. Is this your first group podcast?
No,
he was...
He did Return of the Jedi training.
Oh, yeah.
He did do Jedi.
That was good.
That's where we learn you can't have more than 4 people.
There is such a thing as too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, we're striving for Spider-Man 2 quality here today.
And playing the part of Rob will be Paul.
By the way, speaking of me, let me plug my podcast real quick here.
By all means.
The OCP podcast, which stands for Our Comic Book Philosophy, is now available to listen to on SoundCloud.com. And by the time this gets posted, it may actually already be available on iTunes as well. So if you're interested in comic books and the relationship between comic books and modern pop culture, then that is a podcast that you may enjoy listening to.
What did you talk about this week, Rob?
Well, the most recent podcast
Yes.
that was released was talking about Ant-Man.
Ooh.
Ant-Man. We talk about, the choice of putting Scott Lang front and center instead of Hank Pym. We talk about corporate espionage. And we just talk about, sort of Marvel and DC comics and all that good stuff.
I can't wait till the ElfQuest episode.
If ElfQuest ever manages to get a movie released, then we would talk about it.
Yeah,
certain.
Something to look forward to.
I have no idea what ElfQuest is.
Do they even still publish ElfQuest?
I think it's on its last. I think Dark Horse has it, and
because it was self-published for a very long time.
Well, I think it's like a married couple or maybe they're still married. If nothing else, they're finishing writing the story together.
Because they got divorced.
I think this is the
and
last chapter of ElfQuest. Like, ElfQuest ruined their marriage.
Is ElfQuest good?
They have pointy ears.
Well,
and long, flowing, 80s hair.
Is it just elves doing stuff?
Yeah, pretty much.
doing elfish
Questing.
things.
Yeah.
Swords.
Yeah.
Occasional swords, maybe some swords.
But mainly questing.
They're independent, like Cerberus was, and Bone.
It was one of those independent comic books that came out just before the big explosion of independent comic books.
Dark horses, if
They
you
were the real indies.
People had a slavish devotion to in a way that would make Marvel and DC people look very average and normal.
Right. Before Image came around and became the independent studio for comic book artists. And Vertigo became this sort of place where, hey, you want to make sure your comic gets published? Come over to us because we have, all the infrastructure in place to make sure that stuff actually happens.
All right, so check it out.
Congratulations
Thanks.
on getting it going.
The OCP podcast. It's not a YouTube exclusive like this one, but
Jeff, I told you not to sign that deal with It's like HBO Now when they only released on Apple. Cutting off all...
Very easily.
Well,
I'd be happy to show you how to do it.
Frank YouTube came to him and expected a certain level of commitment.
And Jeff signed on the dotted line.
And,
I can't turn on Frank.
He lost his soul.
I had no use for this soul. Well, let's get right into it.
Yeah,
we got a movie to watch.
What are we watching?
Oh boy.
Oh no, this is gonna be bad. When he says stuff like, "Oh boy," we're in for a ride.
Should we start by acting out the scene?
Do you want to put it in without looking, or you just want?
Just flash it to us.
No. Put it in without looking. I like it better that way.
But how is he going to explain the drinks?
Well, you put it in without looking, and I will go get the drinks.
Yeah.
I'll do my best. I don't know how I'm able to put it in without
All right,
looking.
Just close your eyes and we'll tell you hot or cold, warmer.
Isn't that what you do with your wife, Rob? I'm on fire tonight.
Yeah,
As I said, playing the part of Rob.
You're a real comedian.
Okay, I'll control the... Did you get it in there?
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay, I won't look. I'll try to just, when it pops
This
up.
is great theater of the mind, right?
Yeah.
now.
I'm browsing through the PS4 menu system.
Meanwhile, Jeff is
There we go.
fetching some sort of a concoction that he's gonna pour
Delicious
for
beverage
us.
of some sort?
I hope it's like Yoo-hoo and schnapps.
So, Rob,
Yeah.
since you plugged your other podcast, why don't you tell us about the new one you're coming up with?
Oh, God help us.
He said we hadn't seen
Hey,
this.
Scott, why don't you explain what
No.
we're seeing on the TV?
Currently, we're seeing some sort of a crude arcade device grasping at a three-eyed alien holding a menu allowing us to choose our language selection.
Yeah,
There are stars on
this
the wall.
alien is green in skin tone. It's got elf-like ears and one single antennae.
Solitaire.
does that
Hey, everybody! It's National Lemonade Day.
Are we gonna have Arnold Palmer's?
We're having simply lemonade.
I can make you an
having
Arnold
Arnold
Palmer
Palmer.
if you want. Yeah, don't worry. We may need to
You guys are
watch this.
watching Toy Story.
Yeah.
Spoilers!
Wait, but we don't know which one, right?
This has got to be the first one.
You think?
Yeah.
I don't know. 2 is my least favorite.
I don't like any of them.
What don't you like about them?
Well, we're gonna get.
Hey
into
Jeff,
it.
I want like maybe a quarter of that.
Okay.
Thanks. So
Would you like me to put some?
I'll take some like vodka in it or something.
Yeah.
And we're getting some great family entertainment. You know, family time should be spent not, hanging out with your family and communicating. It should be in silence.
Give that to Rob
Rob?
because he's gonna.
Put some actually good stuff in it. Do you want some, Scott?
Let me finish half of this and then yes.
Okay.
When you see stuff like this, does this actually turn you off of like family togetherness? I mean, it's so, to me at least, it's so white bread and like cutesy that it's almost offensive.
It's, I find it cloying. I find it...
Yeah,
I find
like this, like these two, like perfectly coiffed hairstyles, slamming their heads together, right? Like it's the total idealized version of American life, which is fake, right?
It's, it just feels forced.
Yeah,
I feel
so-
it's kind of like when you saw like toys on television. It's appropriate to the movie. It's like when you saw like action figures on television, and they had these great elaborate sets, like they're playing with these action figures on. So it's like, yeah, your GI Joes looked awesome when they were in this like miniature jungle that they've constructed.
Right.
But when you actually bring it home, you realize it's just confined by the limitations of your imagination and how great your home life is.
And really, your family's never going to live up to those standards.
No.
So, do you think those types of things have caused people to, I don't know, like murder their entire families because they don't live up to the standards
All I
put
know
forth in Disney movies?
All I know is that Regal Theaters now will search your bags because they are worried about these kinds of things setting people off.
I don't think that's what they're worried about.
Oh, okay.
It's
Here you
fun.
go. Enjoy this snappy beverage.
So, are you guys scared to go to the movies now?
You had dinner?
No, I mean, because the first incident that was, since the '90s Boys in the Hood Menace to Society violence.
Was there violence then?
Oh yeah, when movies like that came out.
I remember there was a shooting during what's the Poetic Justice?
Yeah, Poetic Justice.
Oh, I
Juice.
do remember that. Yeah.
Do you remember Juice?
No, I don't remember. I know the movie, but I don't know what happened during it.
Oh, shooting.
Yeah.
There was a time where they actually released black movies on Wednesdays for a long time. Like, movies that were considered urban got a Wednesday release to kind of space it away from the more Hollywood family-friendly fare. And I always noticed that, being younger, and never really kind of put two and two together. I actually, in my mind, I was thinking, well, I guess urban audiences like to go to movies on Wednesdays. But
This is Urban Movie Day.
apparently.
Should we start having Wednesday Urban Movie Days?
But Spike Lee refused to have any of his movies released on a Wednesday, and actually called him out on it for being
A double standard.
basically double standard. And they eventually realized,
Did you tell
hey,
me if there wasn't a Spike Lee that we'd be watching Straight Outta Compton on Wednesday?
that's right.
So, but don't you think that's very different type of violence where those incidents of like poetic justice or whatever are probably people get into a fight, like Rob's been in a fight in a movie theater, where what's happening
Vanilla Sky.
nowadays it's sort of these random acts of violence that is just designed to go in and kill people, right?
To,
It's not
to instill fear,
yes,
to
yeah.
capture attention.
Apparently, Regal Cinemas has made it a policy of theirs to check everyone's bag now, regardless.
That's what Scott just said.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't present for that.
No, you weren't here. I fault you not.
But the podcast
Call them.
audience.
Well, I hear that, with any sort of broadcast, whether it be podcast, radio, or otherwise, your audience tunes in on average for about 15-minute segments. So it's possible that we're far enough out that the first wave of listeners...
What's the over-under on Jeff's length of time people listen? Besides myself, I would say probably 3 to 4 minutes.
I think I'm only like 3 or 4 episodes behind, but yeah.
Okay. Because
I'll take the over on
when
that.
he gets those clicks over like a long period of time, right? It gets up to like 100 or so, Jeff, right?
Slowly but
As long
surely.
as there's a
Unless it has
sort of
a risque
sex toy
title.
or something about someone being a prostitute in the
Right.
title.
Right.
Yeah, you'll get like 200, 500.
Right. But those are people that probably click on it and then
So
click
how
right
long
off,
has
yeah.
these trailers been going on, Jeff?
Since you
I don't
put
know,
the
I don't know
DVD
what
in.
the YouTube user
Right, so
interface is
what's
like
it
to
say
give
on
you,
there?
Well, we got a menu
actual
going
data.
now.
demographics on
Right.
what people are doing.
It is time to push play.
We're gonna
This
probably
is the
have to
third
unmute
one.
it. Is it?
It is.
Oh, it is the third
It
one.
is the
Yeah.
third Toy Story.
I think the third was my favorite.
Yeah,
well,
I like it.
it was
Third
my
one was
least,
my-
apparently.
Yeah,
Unless
third
the other
one was
two
the
don't
one
show
I disliked the least.
All right, well,
So-
good times here.
What do you hate about Toy Story?
Yeah,
I don't hate.
Start-
I don't hate.
start the movie.
Don't put words in my mouth.
put the subtitles in, and then Rob, explain yourself.
I don't hate the movies. I just find them sort of.
Saccharine?
I hate to say overrated because I think that word is overused, but I really do
Is
feel
overrated?
Yeah, overrated is overrated. But I think it comes down to is like people give it so much love that I think they're kind of overdoing it when people say how much they love this movie.
You're saying these films are not gush-worthy.
These series of movies. I think there's a
I
fourth
think-
one in the works.
There is.
This is actually probably my exact feelings for Doctor Who. Like, not necessarily bad, but people are so in love with it that it honestly sort of turns me off from it.
I'm never entirely convinced people really do love Doctor Who.
I've tried watching Doctor Who. I've actually tried watching it when there's been multiple doctors to give him a try. I've even tried with the most recent Doctor because I like that actor. I feel he's salty. And I like salty actors.
Was that Peter Capaldi?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Old doctors are great. The
and I
first
watched
Doctor-
the Christmas episode, and I was like, "This is okay. It's okay."
If it makes you feel better, and maybe the reason that you have a similar experience with Doctor Who is that Doctor Who was intended to be a children's, programming for children. you
It's
know.
definitely not that anymore.
It's not that anymore, right? Like,
No.
ever since it came back, I don't think so.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. Angels crying blood.
Well, yeah, but that isn't that modern cinema, modern
Yeah.
things movies and TV is all, fantastical things,
Yeah.
superheroes, garbage.
Juvenile.
I resolved.
Yeah.
I resolved to myself that if I was gonna get into Doctor Who, I was going to get the authentic Doctor Who experience. So I've started from the first Doctor.
Like the 60s?
Okay.
Yeah, and it is a little... I can see the appeal of it if you've started back there, because you realize the limitations of what they were doing, that they would blow their budget on an episode, on costumes and set, and so they'd have to have an episode where it would just be filmed in an empty room, and they would have to pretend that they were hallucinating, just to, get the show in under budget.
See, that's the thing, though, is I don't dislike Doctor Who. It's actually the love that people show for the show. And I mean, what does it really matter if they love it and I don't? But it's kind of like you're wasting your time on this show that doesn't deserve this much love. There's so many good sci-fi shows out there that you can waste your time on that are better than Doctor Who.
Well, let me be the devil's advocate on Toy Story, because I think with Toy Story, it's a very distinct cinematic experience. This is a movie you would go see, like, on a Christmas or Thanksgiving, possibly with, like, the kids in your family. You know, it would be that event when everybody would get dragged to the movies and there'd be, like, 10 of you, where you're like, oh, wow! And you have these big explosions, you have the characters, you have Tom Hanks, you know. I could see, people being sold on it as, oh, I went to this for a family movie, and at least it didn't completely insult my intelligence.
That's a pretty low bar.
Yeah, but, I mean, think about how many people, especially with families, go to the movies on a regular basis. And, before they're of a certain age. And I think because I'm going through that now, where the last movie I saw in a theater was Kingsman.
Great flick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that recently. Liked it a lot.
I also enjoyed it. 4 out of 4 agree.
Yeah.
Kingsman is a good movie.
Solid film.
It's few and far between. So I think when you get that opportunity, like, okay, the kids will shut up for a bit. I'm just gonna have a moment where I can just kind of escape. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, let me make it clear. I don't hate the Toy Story series. I just, when someone says, you want to watch Toy Story? I'm like, nah, I'm okay. It's like...
Well, if you've already seen them, like this, I liked this movie the first time I saw it, but I haven't seen it since. It's not something I'd go back and watch, but granted, I don't go back and watch much of anything. Except Babe. I watched that.
Made you cry. We talked about
Is that the kids
episode.
movie you would say you've gone back and watched the most?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
That'd be like Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory for me.
Oh yeah,
we all
that
have.
too.
Transformers the movie.
To get back to the Doctor Who thing, I wanted to bring something up.
Okay.
The way people react to Doctor Who, I wonder if it's the same way how I feel about
RoboCop?
60s Star Trek. Do people look at 60s Star Trek and sort of like roll their eyes the way I roll my eyes at Doctor Who?
I could see doing it.
I know. I watched 60s Star Trek. I actually, it reminds me more like Twilight Zone than anything.
I roll my eyes a little bit at Star
You
Wars.
take that back, Jeff.
Fanship. In the
It is, 'cause-
roll your eyes at Doctor Who.
You take that back.
I won't.
Don't ever compare Twilight Zone, one of the greatest shows ever made, to Star Trek: The Original Series.
Oh, I'm
Hey,
saying-
hey, bro, calm down.
That's
I like Twilight Zone and Outer Limits plenty.
All I'm saying is Twilight Zone was no night gallery.
I like that gallery too. Anything Rod Serling does.
I
fact, he
prefer
did a bunch
Alfred
of-
Hitchcock Presents.
Nah, that one. It's okay, but
I'm
ultimately,
currently the one that's watching the movie, Jeff.
Oh, Kat has entered the room. She usually leaves within minutes of the movie starting, but I have a movie
I
she...
recently rewatched this movie.
Oh, well, you're going to be watching it with us talking over it, so that's
What
going to
made
be fun.
you rewatch it?
For a long time.
This just felt like it.
We should probably turn it down a little bit and
I
put
watched
the,
it
put,
by
put the
myself. Sorry.
subtitles on. Because,
Like a fine Truffaut film.
yeah.
Oh.
Alright.
I think I like this movie so much because it was a lot about like sort of putting away the past
Mm-hmm.
and moving on from things.
Some people, that's very hard to do.
I know, and that's why I actually think that Pixar does that sort of theme frequently because I think that was the same theme of Up.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the issue with that. That's a great theory as to its theme. But this is the third movie in a fucking franchise.
The kid's getting
But this was
older.
kind of the
And
end.
there's a fourth one coming.
I bet it's about the toys. You're right. The theme of this movie was maybe the Andy's movement away from the toys, right?
Right.
But the toys still exist ultimately, right?
Right, but doesn't that dilute the message or the theme?
I don't know. I think you can take it sort of in your own.
Sure, you can.
On its
If you
own.
live in a vacuum and there's like the only movie that you are aware of,
Well, I probably won't see Toy Story 4.
I bet you will.
Well, maybe.
There's no escaping it.
How'd you get around seeing Toy Story 3?
How did I get around? I saw this.
Like in theaters?
No, of course not, Jeff. I don't go to theaters. I don't want to get killed. Oh, something happened. It turned off. Oh, sorry, he was in a box.
All right.
I mean, the cast is enough to sell me on some aspects of it, like Jerry Stiller and
I like how you're pointing out the actors nobody knows. As
Who
opposed
doesn't
to,
know?
John
Jerry Stiller.
Ratzenberger.
I'm pretty sure if you ask, who's Jerry Stiller? They're like, I don't know, is that Ben Stiller's dad? Like, yeah,
Yes.
but he was also on Seinfeld. People are not going to know that shit.
Wait, is Jerry Stiller a voice in this?
isn't he?
No, you're thinking Don Rickles, I think.
Who's Mr. Potato Head?
That's Don Rickles.
That's Don Rickles?
Jerry Stiller has nothing to do with this
So
movie.
you like the movie for the non-existent guy?
It's Don
Not-
Rickles?
oh,
Yeah.
George Costanza's
John
mom is Mrs.
That's
Potato
what
Head.
throws me off. I
John
was just-
Ratzenberger's on the show. Or, right?
Yeah,
He's on the shoe.
This is like a really... It's an episode of Cheers, basically. There's Woody.
Where's George went? Who does he play?
He plays his cell phone. He does that voice. It's really good. He's
How
like
much
the-
money did we determine George Wendt has?
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah, he's
It
like
was-
a multi-millionaire.
Yeah, I mean,
45 million?
yeah, it was up there.
I don't buy it.
What if he made good investments?
No, man.
Ratzenberger made some good investments.
I think they all made good investments. They were on Cheers.
Except
The
That
thing
was-
about this movie, it's sort of like it's endemic of what's going on with Pixar, which is that they
Cannibalizing themselves?
they're cannibalizing themselves and they're just doing sequels. You got the fucking Dory's story coming out. Is that what it's called?
It's Finding Dory, I believe.
Finding Dory.
Finding
You
Dory's
got
story.
that. You got Incredibles 2 now. You got Cars 3.
We already
coming
had it.
out.
We
well,
had
don't
a.
you think that has more to do with Disney than Pixar themselves?
Yeah, but that's
like if they wouldn't have been bought out, they would still be making just
But they still like make something like Inside Out,
yeah.
which is wholly original.
Why don't you just
and we'll
ignore
probably
those?
have a sequel.
Why don't
I
you-
have not seen Toys. I have not seen Cars 2. Have not seen Monster University.
Scott has.
Cars 2 and Monsters University. We've seen both of them.
Yeah, I've ignored those.
Uh,
I'm probably going to ignore Finding Dora or Dory, whatever.
Dory.
the name is.
See, I find Finding Nemo the most overrated of all the Pixar
I agree,
movies.
Jeff. I totally agree. I was not impressed by that movie at all.
It's got Albert Brooks in it, so you
I've
have
probably
to
owned
sort
Finding
of like
Nemo
give
for
it.
about a decade, and I still haven't watched it.
I thought Michael Richards was in Finding Nemo.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. What I will say about the third one that's kind of I put lesser of the Toy Story movies is the story in a sense is almost a rehash of the second one, where it's the whole rescue the toy doesn't necessarily want to go, kind of the searchers theme. It's kind of rehashing that. I mean, there's a
Even their specials have followed that theme pretty faithfully. And it seems like it's continuing with the...
it's constantly toys being abandoned and how they feel about it.
Well, that's to appeal to the adults, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you saw that the opening of this movie was a straight gut punch, where it was, footage on, grainy home video of Andy playing with his toys and
Happier
seeing
times.
the childlike, wonder and bewilderment.
Imagination.
And now he's, this college-aged,
Yeah, he hasn't opened this box of toys in how long it's been established.
Now he just has a box of sex toys.
Why can't we see those guys
Can
talk?
we have a sex toy story?
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Name of the podcast.
Yeah. Write it down, Chef.
You know you get a ton of hits now.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Right, yeah. Pixar should have like a Pixar After Dark
Yeah, that'd be great.
imprint Or you could...
Well, think what they could do, right? They could do some pretty good stuff. I mean, I'm not saying make it like hentai or anything, but you could make adult Pixar movies that have like, you know, adult themes.
Well, like,
right. The sequel to Inside Out can be In and Out.
Oh my god.
Whereas, like, the first movie focus on the brain, and then you can focus on the nethers.
Yeah, how, like, because I don't know Inside Out, but I've heard it's all about how the brain works. But maybe then you have a movie about the genitals and how they influence the brain. Like, and then the movie would be the genitals take over, and then as the person ages, the genitals lose influence, and they don't want to lose influence.
And they feel abandoned.
You would see that movie.
Yeah, I'm living that movie, Jeff.
Yeah, so let's come up with titles for sequels to
For Up, it'd be like what, Sprung?
Did you guys ever have that one toy was like your cherished possession?
Wait, okay, you mean like a real toy?
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
We're getting off the sex toy.
Yeah, kind of.
Got it.
Wait, what? I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Did you ever have that one cherished toy? Like you open the gift on Christmas, you got that. Oh my God, it's what I always wanted. And you hold this toy at such high esteem.
Yeah, the one that I remember the most, it was what was his name? Starfire from Transformers. The white
Jetfire.
Jetfire. Yeah.
Ooh.
When I got that for Christmas one year when I was a youngster, I lost my shit.
That's a pretty big deal. That's a good toy. That's almost Robotech in its look and style.
Yeah.
I think that the toys that I, appreciated most from Christmases were the ones I didn't expect at all. Robotech, it's funny that you mention it. I got an SDF-1, the like giant starship that was the setting for most of the series as a Christmas gift one year, and I still like have it. Like, it's die-cast.
Speaking of people who won't let things go.
Yeah, that's me. We just moved to our new place in West Sac, and I'm sure the people who were moving my stuff over were just, why the hell does a grown man still have all this?
Yeah, well, why do you have it? That's the big question. Like, what are you going to do with it? Or is it just something that...
You pass on to that youngster of yours?
Yeah, is it sort of like moms with their antiques or their knickknacks? They sort of hold these memories for you? Or?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is just nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. Some of it is, what if Ryan wants to, pick up this stuff and be into it at some point. And some of it is just, well, I guess I could throw it out. I guess I could sell it. I guess I could just donate it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could go any one of those ways, and eventually I'm going to have to reconcile it because you can't keep everything forever, because then you just end up as an episode of Hoarders.
Yeah, we've talked about this, though, that we're in an age where there's this serious epidemic of arrested development, where people are well into their 40s acting like early 20-year-olds.
Or younger.
Or younger, right? And we've come a point where that's totally cool. That's totally cool. People are okay with that. For whatever reason. I don't know what the turning point was, what it is that sort of like flipped that switch.
Probably a lot of apathy. That basically you could just go, well, you're going to do what you're going to do.
Probably also corporate America helped that along by refusing to stop selling to people out after they have outgrown normally. They realize, oh wait, these people have money now and they'll keep buying this stuff. Let's market to them.
Yeah.
Like video games. Video games after a certain age you were supposed to stop playing video games.
Now the demographics primarily like what, 20s,
It's
30s?
all adults.
No, the average video gamer is, I think, 36 or 30.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the average comic book reader or
Is-
comic book buyer
Yeah, is 20s to 30s or older.
or older.
But
The average wrestling fan is 55 or older.
let's clarify, though, within these genres of supposed child-based...
Are we talking about genres? Or are we talking about like actual?
No, I just mean
medium.
like comic medium. Yeah, I guess is a better word for it. Like comic books and video games. there are ones that are specifically designed for adult entertainment, right?
But isn't
Like,
the
I would say the
majority
vast
of things
majority are.
Yeah, that's the default setting now.
But ultimately, I guess
You have to
I
actually
would say
work
this-
hard to find a comic book aimed at a child.
I would say the starting point for most comic books
Even
is probably
Archie.
PG-13.
Yeah,
Like,
even
that's-
Archie is taking on fucking Predator now.
I saw that. That looked funny. Yeah.
Written by Alex DeCampi, who does a really great comic series called Grindhouse. That she basically just does like 2-part Grindhouse stories. Like
Right,
she
you
did
got Archie in the afterworld,
or Afterlife with Archie.
Afterlife,
They're
yeah.
doing a Sabrina the Teenage Witch story that's basically like Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah. So I mean,
But here's my problem with your criticism is that
do you think
ultimately-
it's criticism or observation? I'm giving
well,
you?
maybe you're not criticizing, but you're observing and you're saying that it's somehow negative. My problem is that it's totally socially acceptable for somebody to wear sports paraphernalia and spend all day Sunday watching football, and that's more legitimate lifestyle than somebody going to see a comic book movie
Because
or
that's
playing
the
a video game.
That's the adult
but
version
that's
of that
bullshit.
stuff. That is
Because
what
it
you're
is-
supposed to have
I
grown
know,
into.
but that's my point. Is that's watching sports does not make you an adult or make you mature. In fact, I think in some ways it makes you less mature.
I think you're just saying that because you're not into sports.
No. What I'm pointing out, I'm not into comic books either, but I'm not knocking.
But you're into
somebody
video
who-
games.
Yeah. So what? I enjoy it. Like these are pastimes that people do to relax or whatever. And ultimately, I don't like when people denigrate one form of someone's pastime while totally accepting somebody that likes football of all things.
Well,
you know?
Again,
It's
you're
ridiculous.
turning what I was talking about into something negative. I wasn't denigrating anybody. I am
job,
as
Paul.
guilty as anyone else.
Oh, I know you are. But what I'm saying is you're saying that it's a form of arrested development. Well, that means that anyone that spends all
But
their
that's
time
what-
listening to fantasy sports and watching sports is just as stunted and not adult.
Infantile.
Yes. Because it's the same pointless activity.
So you don't like me using the term arrested development to describe it. That's what it is.
I do. Yeah, you're right. I don't like it because in our society, it's totally socially acceptable to spend tons of money on sports and watch sports all the time and talk only
and
about
pass it
sports.
down almost like a religion.
Exactly. And it's totally socially
So
acceptable.
what is a term you'd rather use instead of arrested development to describe what's going on?
There's an epidemic of
See, epidemic, right? That's a negative
No,
connotation,
I
right?
don't want to say that either. I think it's become more socially acceptable that these are your pastimes. Our generation, we were the first video game generation, so we've grown up with it, and we're not stopping because we're adults.
But what I'm asking you is, what is a term that you can use to describe that in as simplistic as arrested development? Because when you say that, people get it right away.
But that's ultimately, I think that's a misnomer because I don't think it shows a stunted person. I think plenty of people. Scott, you love comic books, right?
I love everything.
What do you do for a living?
How about this?
I work for the Attorney General's office.
Exactly. He's a
How
well-to-do
about this then?
lawyer.
Instead of arrested
No, I'm
development,
not a
Oh,
lawyer.
you're not a lawyer? I was told you were a lawyer.
how instead of arrested development, prolonged childhood?
It's not prolonged
but
childhood.
It's not even that. I understand what you're saying. Is that
Yes.
it's less. It's that we're living in an atmosphere, a culture of being able to live a past.
Prolonged whimsy? You like that better?
No, it's the problem is don't you think
You want
sports
some good stuff in there?
Yeah.
sports is oftentimes the same thing for older adults, right? It's their escape. They can go and root for
We
the.
can talk about what sports are. It's a tribal thing
Can we?
because when we are on the same, we're rooting for the same team, then that creates community. That's the reason why that
And-
is
and I
as
think you can-
successful.
but
as it
video
is.
games work the same way, right?
No, they weren't. They were never like that. They've
But they are
become
now.
that because of the internet. Maybe that's what it is. The internet is at fault for this. There
Well,
you go. That's the turning point. 1998.
I would say
99.
a lot of this goes back further than that. I would say that the reason that athleticism is celebrated and appreciated is because
Oh no. That's no, we're not even talking about that. We're talking about what
The people who
What-
watch.
what
athletics,
turned
right?
what
no,
turned.
but athletics as a spectator and as an obsession with it, I think can be traced back to the times when you were you were in awe by the person who could lift the largest rock.
Right, and that one was easy. That one was easy to proliferate because you had newspapers who were into it, TV had the games on. But we're talking about what turned it so that video games, comic books, could also enjoy the same sort of like community.
Because
it's the internet.
No, it's not the internet.
But I think
it's
it
the people that grew
because
up with it are now of the age where they're making culture, right?
And I think it was. I know for comic books, the thing that changed it for it was the ability to monetize it,
right.
and that when you created a secondary market for these things that you used to just throw away. Same thing with toys.
Right.
You know, that is what made the turning point for comic books. When you the reason why it exploded in the 1990s was because you had magazines like Wizard that went there and said, "Oh, hey, here's what these are selling for. Here's all this stuff. Oh, by the way, here's all this new stuff that's going on," and it created an atmosphere that it could thrive in as this more than just this disposable literature. It was also just a whole thing unto itself that you could just immerse in. I don't know. I think some of the reason that that people could devote themselves to, whether it's sports, whether it's toys, whether it's video games, I think you could even go back to the fact that, before the activity used to be going to church and self-flagellating, and, you were toiling most of the time, and if you weren't toiling, you were feeling guilty about the fact that you weren't, But once we had a 40-hour work week guaranteed, you had free time. You had time to spend with your family. And if you didn't have a family, you had time to spend on, whatever it was, going to the movies, reading books, collecting thimbles, it's... Thank you.
Okay, so it's multiple variables, right? Because adults are having kids later or choosing to not have kids.
Correct.
So we're creating
I'm good for it.
adult kids, which doesn't have any money to spend anywhere else.
But that's the problem when you say adult kids.
I
don't like that because it's ultimately what it's
implying.
implying.
Because it's adults that really don't have any other responsibility for other people other than themselves. Financially.
Right. Okay, so
where are you going to spend the money and the time?
Right, but that's
She brings up a good point because people are not
Culture
having
is
kids
changing.
anymore as much or as early as they used to, so they do have more disposable income. And so when you're a person of a certain age that has enough money, and the corporations have no problem marketing these things to you, then what else are you going to spend your money on?
But the problem is I guess where I took offense to what you were saying is when you attack something and act as if one pastime is more valid than the other because society deems it. You know what football is? It's basically comic books for the masses. And comic books are more and more becoming for the masses, right? But it's just
Bro, I'm just asking questions. You're talking to a guy who loves comic books, loves superheroes, also loves football, Dallas Cowboys. I love all that stuff.
Yeah,
I'm just asking questions.
I'm in the same boat. Like, I think I have more passions than I probably should have time for. And that's, I think that's a theme that the Toy Story movies should explore. The fact when all your... And maybe, I guess, even though I hated the Lego movie,
Oh, that was good.
I also dislike the Lego movie.
I think part of the reason I
taste.
hated it was because it was too close to home with Will Ferrell's character in it. Was that basically at some point you do have to
get rid of stuff.
You have to get rid of stuff. You have to move on.
Well, you have to prioritize the things that are truly important, right?
Exactly.
But some people don't ever do that. Some people their entire life, and I could see that being a critique for many sports fans, right? Like, they're so obsessed with it, they don't care about their family. They just sit there.
Like people who get so obsessed with their team being the most important thing to them that they would kill or attack another person.
Right, or they get so depressed when their team loses and completely neglect their family or treat their family like shit, even though they have nothing to do with this team. They didn't play.
But that comes down to people who... those are not the majority. That is a very small.
Oh, I know a
minority.
lot of people that take their sports very, very seriously.
Not to the point where they kill somebody or
Not
neglect
kill,
people.
but
Well, here's a question
neglect.
for- as you're
Of course,
moving-
they neglect people. I know people. I can name people. I'm not going to name them. But I know people that spend more time worrying on their phone looking at the sports scores and then on weekends watching than paying attention to their kids. And I'm not going to say who.
No one here.
Can you cough and...
No. I'll tell you after the show.
But, I mean, here's a lighter, a lighter version of what he's saying. Have you ever had a time where a sports team that you cared about lost and you felt bummed? Like...
Dallas Cowboys losing to the Green Bay Packers last year in the
Oh, the
playoffs.
Sacramento Kings, but you got used to
the
it.
fact that you're letting people doing a job that you have nothing to do with other than you give your money to them, and you're letting your day be at least made a little bit worse, even a little bit.
Yeah. And they're going home to their mansion and their supermodel wife.
Yeah.
And they don't care. Let's be honest. They don't really care that much.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
I
I agree with you that it is funny the amount of investment people put into something like that to make their day worse off when they lose. But I feel like that's part of being human. You invest in things. Otherwise, it just becomes an existence of apathy, which to me sounds even worse. When you don't care.
It's working for me. Here's the thing. I think there's certain things you should invest in, right? Like your family, your friends, things that are
I think
important.
it matters about the levels. So if I'm bummed that the Cowboys lost, it shouldn't translate to me being suicidal by the
Or
end.
kicking
You would
a
not
dog,
lose
or
sleep
being rude
over
to
that.
a cat, or-
Right. No,
Has he ever been rude to you?
But I think you're being
After
naive to
Cowboys
say
losing.
that a lot of people
Oh, yeah.
don't respond.
Kicking and screaming.
no.
Kicking, screaming cat.
That game when they lost, I agreed to get my facial hair shaved in such a way that would be embarrassing.
Like Randall's Hex Cobb.
Yeah,
from
exactly.
Ace Ventura.
Actually, I agreed to have my facial hair shaved in the shape of the Batman symbol if they lost, and I did it. But I mean, like I said, I feel like it's about levels. It's about how far you take it. There's always going to be a 0 to 10, and hopefully all of us who are reasonable find a 5 somewhere there.
I think you're just being naive to say that isn't a common occurrence that people take sports too seriously.
I think we have a lot of evidence to the contrary. I mean,
Yeah.
the Brian Stowe thing with the Giants.
Well, I think what you get are instances that are highly publicized.
yeah.
No, I'm
Versus-
talking about even just go on YouTube and type in big loss.
YouTube.
No.
YouTube.
No.
YouTube
You
is
didn't
a
even let me
bastion
finish.
of
You didn't even let me finish.
because you're gonna
You can
point
find
to YouTube as if some
100
sort of like clear indication of like the median. It is not. It is full of racists, bigots, deplorable human
people
beings,
who-
And the McJeffrey
Lords
500
and jerks.
podcast.
People who will say anything because
What?
they can hide behind anonymity, because they can hide
Right.
behind the fact
That is
That's
not a
what
gauge.
I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you can find any number of videos, hundreds of videos of people reacting when their team loses and how upset they truly are.
And we laugh at them.
Yes, we laugh at them, we mock them, but those are real videos and real reactions of like a family member who sees how their loved one acts around sports.
I would love you to actually get a count of how many unique videos there are of that.
Are you
those
kidding me?
instances.
It would be thousands.
Thousands compared to how many millions of sports fans? Billions of sports
Billions.
fans.
How many people are on the fucking planet? You
Bro, there's 3 billion people in the planet.
There's a lot
There
more
is
than
not
that.
3 billion.
Yes, there.
It's 7.5 at this point.
I'm talking about.
You have
sports
no idea
fans.
how many
I'm talking-
people are on the
I'm
planet.
talking about sports fans here. Okay, I'm talking about sports fans. I'm not going to count every single person as a
Oh,
sports
so
fan.
you just cut it in half. That was
Yes, I think that's a fair
Because you were
assessment.
knowledgeable on how many people. Why don't you just admit you're wrong? Do me that
No,
favor. Do me that favor.
no, because you.
Jeff, roll the tape back. He said there are 3 billion people on the planet.
I
heard
say
it.
there's 3 billion. You interrupted
No, I
me.
didn't.
You interrupted me just like I
It
interrupted you.
might have been premature.
Scott, do not be a politician
Yeah,
here.
no. 3 billion people on the planet who enjoy sports. Compared to a few thousand
people.
Why can't I do that?
You can't, because you have no data to back up an estimate that half the people like
Because you don't have any data about how many people on YouTube have videos.
I could actually get that data because I could type in sports reaction.
Right, and then you can probably get information about how many people are in a particular fan club of a sports team, and then extrapolate that to using some sort of equation. If you want to come up with some formula that gives you a roundabout number, a ballpark, pun intended, figure of how many sports fans there are.
The numbers might also be skewed by the number of reactions, because I do think there are a number of people, I think under sports reactions specifically, and maybe what you're saying is more like sports meltdown.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
There are so many people that are trying to go into business for themselves in the medium of entertainment.
Right, and that kind of exposure helps.
I'm more talking about the videos, and I've seen a ton of them.
No, and I know
a family
exactly
member is off to the side while their relative is sitting on the edge of the couch, watching intently as, like, you know, the Seattle Seahawks blow the Super Bowl, and they freak out.
Yeah.
So a ton equals out to what, 2,000? You've seen 2,000 videos?
Oh yeah,
I
I've
think
watched
there's
at
a
least
lot more than
2,000.
that, though.
Exactly, Scott's on my side.
I was politicking, but I saw where you were going with it. And I think you both have valid. I think you both. I'm the middle. You're,
Ever the diplomat. Here you go. Cheers.
Are you cheersing this?
Yeah.
I'm not cheersing with you. I'm gonna break that cup.
It's fine. It's fine.
So Toy Story 3 is on.
Jeffrey, you talk this show?
No, I'm just listening to you guys. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think you have a real gold podcast here. This is going to be great stuff.
We're talking about stuff, you know,
Yeah.
like life.
Jerry Stiller.
These are the kind of things that
really
the OCP podcast loves. We love to talk about things that are topical, because we're all about how comic books affect modern culture, pop culture, and society. So this kind of conversation will be great.
You guys tend to have very different opinions about society, so I imagine you argue a bit on that show.
We've managed on the first episode. We've managed to not go Siskel and Ebert and be all.
Which one are you?
I'll just say Ebert because I'm a little more rotund.
Did you watch that movie finally?
Life Itself?
Yeah.
We actually discussed it on a podcast.
I think I might have gotten verklempt. Is that the word? Verklempt?
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wept at that movie.
I don't remember the name of this bear.
Teddy?
Is that his name? He smells like strawberries. That's all I remember about him.
Dusty, what are you staring at, bro?
And it's great whenever
I got a squeaky toy. I'm
whenever
not
you
giving
go
it
to
back
a
to him.
Disney store and
Where is
find
it? It's
a
right here.
plush version
Give it
of that
that.
bear. If you smell
There
it,
you go.
it smells like strawberries.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they stayed true to the movie.
They say, it's those little things that Disney does. Like making their plush toys smell like strawberries.
Well, did you ever smell like strawberry shortcake toys?
Yeah, they smell like.
There was a hint of something in
No,
that.
those. My sister has strawberry shortcake, and I used to go,
Shortcake toys, guys?
go into the bathroom and smell on that
And
hair.
yiffing.
Only my Rainbow Bright toys I smelled.
They didn't smell, did they?
No, not at all.
They just smelled like kind of
Synthetic.
lime. And
I was disappointed that they never made a Rainbow Bright toy based on the movie. With
The
that
Star
the
Stealer.
Star Stealer.
Yeah, and Onyx. That was his name of his horse, wasn't it?
What
Onyx?
movie are you talking about?
Rainbow Bright and Star Stealer.
Yeah.
I have not seen this.
And-
Saw that in the theater.
For a good reason.
Saw that in the theater. My aunt and uncle took us, and then my aunt and uncle were such good custodians of us as children that they let us just grab loose change out of a fountain.
How much did you get?
At least like $5.
Wow.
It was just there. It was like a lottery. I was just
Yeah, I don't understand why more people don't do that.
probably because if you saw someone like living in a fountain, you might be like, "Hey,
But that's wholly based on,
taboos."
belief, in
Yeah.
like mysticism and magical things.
This is why I took the squeaky toy away from the dog.
Dusty, get out of here.
Oh God, sorry, cat.
Straight into the crotch. Back to the womb.
Effective.
So that's like the most pointless toy. Does that even exist?
What?
Those peas?
3 peas in a...
Yeah.
In a pod?
Really?
Those are great for like very, very young kids because it teaches them like putting things back in and.
Why don't they just get
Don't
some
take
real
it to a dark
peas?
place, Paul.
It wasn't dark. It was more like, wow. I didn't know kids needed to be taught that.
So now Woody's in the ideal position with the new young owner.
Are you narrating this, Jeff?
I'm kind of like bringing people
This
up to
is off
speed.
the rails, man.
I'm sorry.
This is like
Well, I was going to talk about my memories of having my imaginary
You know what,
land.
Jeff? You know what you should do when it
What?
comes to this sort of thing? What you should do a cue. You should cue it up and say, "Hey, folks, we're doing a commentary essentially
Actually,
for this
that-
movie. Why don't you cue up the movie at this exact moment and watch it with us?"
Yeah.
Because I don't know how your DVD player works.
No.
It
It's
doesn't
easy,
matter
Jeff.
about the DVD player,
It's
man.
super easy. You say, you're at the title screen.
Right.
You say 3, 2, 1, start.
Yeah.
And then you
Yep.
start the movie with us. And I always thought that's what you were going to do.
That was it. What I did that with Gremlins.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So why didn't you continue?
Because we kept on watching it at your place. And I didn't, because you don't have like a timer thing.
Well, Rob's more than willing to start it at the appropriate time.
There's your timer, brah.
The next group one, we will do that.
You don't have to worry about that. Just listen to the podcast, time it.
If you want to start watching with us now, we're at 36:54.
Yeah, at this mark, it's going to be 37 minutes. Now.
Do you remember how hard it was in the age of VHS tapes to cue things
Oh,
up?
yeah, because
Like, if you
you would rewind a little bit, off.
and you
Fast forward a little bit, off.
and you would bring it from your VCR at home, you'd have it perfectly lined up, and then you'd bring it to the VCR in your classroom,
Right.
because for some reason you brought a Three Stooges tape for a book report.
Wow, very specific.
Yeah, that was, not that this has happened to
They're
any of
fine
us.
novellas.
And I popped it in, it was completely off, and then the timer, the units they were using on this other VCR, completely different. So I couldn't get any, like I had like all my cues on it lined up so I could skip around and use highlights. Yeah.
Ruined?
Ruined.
What'd you get on that? What grade?
Probably a C minus.
Oh, that's rough.
But I'm impressed I got that much, given that I was doing a book report on a book that had nothing to do with the Three Stooges. And I used the Three Stooges.
Wait a second.
You were trying to make a point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to do a
You just have an excuse to watch Three Stooges in school.
I have so many fond memories of waking up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and watching Three Stooges really late at
Why are you getting up at 4 a.m.?
When I was a
How
kid-
old were you?
I was probably like 8 or 9, 10 maybe.
I would get up at 5 to watch Bullwinkle and Rocky and or Underdog or George of the Jungle.
The only
Yeah.
time I ever got up that early is when it's the Saturday morning. They have the new season of Saturday morning cartoons, and I didn't want to miss a thing. So I would get up at like 4:30. I watched the Farm Report,
I would watch the Farm Report.
and then I think sometimes they had some Captain Kangaroo on.
Why would they have cartoons so early in the morning?
They were mostly
They started
the
around
old-
5:30.
Yeah, like really, they weren't the modern ones, right? They'd show like
They had like
reruns.
they would play like Beanie and Cecil.
Yeah.
But then you eventually get into Snorks and your Foofer and all that kind of fun stuff.
Theme by George Clinton of Parliament Funkadelic fame.
That's nothing to sniff at. But yeah, I used to really get excited about Saturday morning, the new crop.
I remember the season that the Karate Kid cartoon came out, and they actually would premiere all the new Saturday morning cartoons on the Friday before.
Oh yeah, they'd have like the half-hour special, like
Yeah.
at 7 o'clock at night.
Or
Like,
they'd have a very special episode where, like, the Muppet Babies were, like, taking a stand against, teen kidnapping. Or
well, they had that one special that combined like you had like DuckTales, you had the Ninja Turtles, you had the Muppet Babies,
like Heathcliff.
Garfield, all in the same.
I
It was the
didn't
Say No
think
to
it
Drug
Garfield. I thought they would
cartoon.
have to sell for Heathcliff as their orange.
It's the Marvel versus DC of our time when all these cartoon characters. You're watching Garfield like talk to Kermit the Frog, and you're like blown, mind's blown. It's a good time.
The best though is when you got up that early, and my parents subscribed to HBO.
So the last really nasty movie was ending.
Yeah, yes, because they would stop showing rated R movies. I think it's 6 a.m.
Probably.
And so, like, I saw Hellraiser for the first time when I was, like, 10. And
Nothing like watching Hellraiser at 4 a.m.
Yeah, like, it was one of those times where you knew you were doing something that you shouldn't be doing, but at the same time...
You were just so excited that you were doing it?
Yeah, and you felt like you were getting an education you couldn't get at school.
That was me watching Saturday Night Live as a kid. Like...
The pain is pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. That's lived with me for the rest of my life.
Well, I was a classic Skinamax kid. I would patiently wait for my mom to go to bed on Friday night so I can watch whatever Shan Tweed movie was on at 12:30.
So she subscribed to Cinemax?
We had one of them cable boxes that miraculously had movie channels.
Okay, well, I'll tell you how desperate I was.
Oh, you watched
Scrambled?
No, not even Scrambled.
Spice TV.
I did watch that. Yes, I did watch that, and that was great because at some points it would be totally clear.
Kill you?
It was
You'd
the
watch
negative,
it, and then for like 5 seconds.
No, but that's the thing, Jeff. That's why it was so enticing because ultimately it was but it was also the teasing. That channel teased you, Jeff. I wish they'd have a channel on the internet right now that like you could go to.
Scramble.
It would scramble, but then it would clear up for like seconds, and you'd be like, "Oh my god, get done, get done!" And then it would go back to squiggly. But here's what I was going to say: is we used to subscribe to HBO, so I didn't get Skinamax.
Mm-hmm.
But what you could do is you could, for some reason, old cable when you ran a cable through a VCR, if you know how VCRs are normally set to a channel 3, right? If you turn it on channel 2, it would go down a channel on the cable, and it would be black and white, but you could see perfectly Skinamax.
So it looked
I
arty.
So
I
it's like,
hacked the TV.
It was like you went back in time.
Yes.
To the days of black and white pornography.
Yes.
Wasn't HBO had real sex though, which is like so unsexy.
I don't know. There were a few times.
It was
For a desperate teenager, it was definitely.
If you were watching a swinger episode, you were in for a bad time.
Yeah. Well, you're right because it was realistic in the portrayal of swingers.
No one
I think I just came up with a great internet idea.
Scrambled
porn on the internet.
Well, remember Spice
You know
TV?
what, dude? In this age of nostalgia,
You think it's on there?
No. In this age of
I
nostalgia,
think
if it's not on there, you may be onto something.
I should scoop it up.
You
Yeah.
may be onto something.
Yeah.
Hipsters, there'll be a contingent of hipsters like, bro, I'm all about the scrambled porn.
It's gonna be like the new version of edging.
Yeah.
What?
I bet it could take off.
I think it could.
Yeah.
I really do, and I think people might even subscribe to it.
Yeah.
Pay money?
I have no doubt.
$1 a month, Jeff.
Wait, but you'd have to buy the rights to these scrambled.
No, I'd get all like what's that? Where it's free to
Public domain.
public domain.
There's no public domain porn.
Oh, there is.
Oh,
There's
Fair
gotta be
use. Fair use.
Fair
It's for
use.
educational purposes.
Yeah.
So that way you can see what the
It's a
experience
parody.
was.
It's a parody.
And I would also make the argument: I'm not really showing the movie. I'm showing parts of the movie, right? So
and you'd
you
even
could play
garble the audio.
yeah, you could play like 30 seconds of the movie.
You could plead fair use.
Yeah.
There are people who would hate your guts. Oh, I
For
can't
coming
believe
up with
this.
it.
I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe I live
They'd
in a
hate my
time-
guts, but then they'd be so addicted to it.
No, what they would do is they would be super negative about it, in essence being free publicity for you.
Yeah, okay.
Like, what is this scrambled porn about?
Hey, Jeff, look that up on your computer. See if they
You gotta come up with a better
have-
name than scrambled porn, though.
But that's what everyone called it. That's how it was referred to. I mean, I think squiggly porn was also an acceptable term. But,
No one said squiggly porn.
well, in the Sacramento area, it was Spice. They had the Spice channel, right?
Yeah, the Spice Channel.
The thing about Spice, I remember, first of all, you couldn't show penetration, so blowjob scenes were really awkward to watch. Because all you saw were eyes and the head going like
Wait,
this.
so you actually saw unscrambled Spice?
No.
Yeah, my dad had all the channels, so if I ever go to Dad's house,
It was
then
like Candyland. You came
Oh,
away,
no shit.
You came away raw.
when he decided to go out for the night with his biker buddies, I'm like my own little porn paradise, and
Debauchery.
I was in junior high at the
Jizz
time.
everywhere.
Oh man.
And I wasn't even masturbating yet, so I didn't even.
You didn't know what to do with yourself.
I was just
You're
happy
staring
looking at
at
naked
my
things.
dick is engorged. I don't know what to do with it to relieve it.
Yeah, would you be like aroused at that time?
Oh yeah, Oh,
what
yeah.
would you do? Like, I don't know what to do with this thing.
I would just...
Maybe I'll go to the
I
bathroom
stare
and
and be happy because I'm looking at something forbidden. And see, I'm the guy who used to steal the... I used to go into the... what's the Walden books and steal centerfolds out of Playboys and take them home and then actually cut the centerfold out of... They just cut their body out.
Right.
And then put it in a
serial killer.
Yeah,
Did-
put it in a sticker book and just stare at it.
Did any of your memories, like fond memories, include stuff that's not illegal?
Sure. Probably involved toys. I could tell you about Puppet Sluppet Land.
What's
So
that?
it was my own imaginary universe I did with my sister when I was in grade.
Oh no.
No,
I
don't
like where
don't
this
take
is
it in a
going.
dark place, please.
Okay. Why don't
So-
you tell us about Puppet Sluppet Land?
I will. So,
God.
all right. So me and my sister had this
Your sister and I.
Yeah, proper English. Stuff.
sister and I
This is a classy show.
had a fantasy imaginary land. And we were Hasey and Casey. I was Hasey, she was Casey. I was also known as Pat Boy. Don't ask why. So, and then
Wait, why though?
and there's no,
Don't ask
these
why.
are just the names.
I thought there was a creepy story.
No, there's no creepy story. We'd have the toys. Like, we'd have Barry and Teddy and Thumpy. Thumpy was the president of Puppet Sluppet Land. He was a turtle. He had a nice red shock of hair.
Why do I get the feeling if I asked your sister about this, she would know nothing about
She
this?
not
And this
only would
was
she
like,
know, she would do impersonations of some of the characters.
You guys are the weirdest siblings I've ever heard of.
This is an
We
older
had a Raggedy
sister.
Ann doll
Or-
named Brownie, and we hated her, and we made her do horrible things.
Like what?
Like, she was like the villain. We made her talk with a gruff, angry, cigarette, laden voice, and she's like, like the grouchy Smurf, and everyone would throw things at her, and probably the reason why she was so pissed. And then we had Spaghetti Dog, which was a dog made out of patches. Just it looked like a hobo's stuffed animal. And I don't know why we call it Spaghetti Dog, because it was red.
You have so much more accurate, vivid memories of
Puppet Sluppet.
imaginative play as a child.
Puppet Sluppet
that
Land.
I have long since forgotten. And
It lasted
replaced
a-
with, who was in,
Jen has held on to these
5.
memories.
I-
He's held on
I
tight.
kept this going. You and my sister outgrew this stuff. I kept Puppet Sluppet Land alive.
Are you older than your sister?
A year and a half
Older?
older.
Okay, so she outgrew it, and you kept it alive.
I kept it
Do
alive.
you still go to Puppet Sluppet Land?
In my mind.
When was the last time?
Yeah, when was the last time you visited?
It's been a long time. We actually... my
3 years.
hands were also puppets. This is Hickey Skeleton. This is Handy. And then we had these guys.
Oh,
They would
my
talk to each other.
When did this end, Jeff?
Saturday.
When did this end?
Saturday. Like, see
These-
between
what?
sets.
When did this end?
Probably around the time when I played t-ball, and I was in left field, and I was talking to my hands, and the coach was concerned
Oh my.
and talked to my mother.
These are those moments that we all have in our lives, but for me personally, I cringe when I think of these moments, and I don't mention them in public.
And
Oh my
thus
god,
ended.
really? You
Yeah.
got caught talking to your mitts.
What were you saying?
Handy
That's
and
the ball.
Handy and
That's the
Hickey
ball.
Skeleton always argued, and the ball would literally roll past me.
So
Because
you were arguing with yourself.
no, I was the spectator to the argument between Handy
Look
and
at
Hickey
you still
Skeleton.
talking about
Yeah.
it as if it's real.
Can you wait? Okay, Jeff, take a step back.
All right.
Can you just do an argument right now for us
like-
with the voices?
All right. I don't know about you, Hickey Skeleton, but I think this is going to be a great day. What do you know about a great day? Every day is bad. Oh, come on. Let's not do that again. Let's have fun today. Ah, no, I don't want to have any fun. Hey, did that baseball just pass us? We should probably go get it. Ah.
Jeff, you've had sex, right?
Yes, I have.
I'm just.
How old were you when you had that?
I was T-ball, so I was in 2nd grade.
That's not that old for that. Like that's. I don't think that's a get the parents.
When do you remember coming to that moment in your childhood where like you couldn't do that anymore?
I think there was a transition period because then I went from kind of the stuffed animals to the G.I. Joes. So it was a different type of thing. I didn't create a whole because it was more.
I'm talking about when it was over.
It was all over.
All over.
Even G.I. Joes.
Even G.I. Joes.
I can tell you the moment when I knew it was over with G.I. Joes is when the vehicles started making their own sounds and launching their own weapons. Because back in my day, you had a heat-seeking missile and you could literally follow the kid around.
So this wasn't by your own volition. This was
it's the technology got better and my
upon you,
and my imagination stagnated, and therefore I lost interest.
What about you?
I can't even point to an incident. I don't know. I think
you never had your own puppet Slubbit Land?
No, I definitely don't remember a time where it suddenly became not cool to play with toys. I just think over time your priorities change and you just...
Scott?
I was in 6th grade.
How do you guys remember this?
Because there were devastating moments. I have a story of my own. That's the reason why. That's why I'm asking you guys.
6th grade. In 5th grade, my teacher used comic books as an incentive. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you completed all your homework assignments, turned everything in on time, didn't get in trouble, there would be a raffle, basically, and one of the prizes in there were comic books. And as long as you were done with all your work, like, she was fine with you, like, reading, just having quiet, like, activity time. So, I was in 6th grade, and I think Cable #1 or #2 had just came out. Had it in my backpack, and I was in my 6th grade class.
Are you breaking up? Are you choking up?
A little bit. And I asked the teacher if it was appropriate when I was done with my assignment if I just kind of sat and quietly read my comic, and she said to me very seriously, in 6th grade we don't read comic books.
Ooh.
It was just like...
Did your heart just sink?
I was like, okay, that's fine.
And then you burned the comic book in effigy?
I just kind of shut it down. I was like, okay. So, like...
That's what it took? Like, that one person like, destroyed your whole...
I was very easy to put off of things.
Wow.
When I was in 8th grade, everybody started getting into, like, music. Like, there was, like, an after-school guitar class. Because, like, the history teacher, who was the principal's brother-in-law, who was just a complete screw-up, like... but for whatever reason, all the kids liked him because he would, play like bad, like 60s guitar songs and a lot of Beatles covers. Anyway, all the kids were into Beatles in that class, and I was like, oh, blah blah blah. Like, I named the name of like a deep track on a Beatles album, and like I remember it was like the most popular kid in that class, Mark Kutaka, just looked at me and was like, "You're not a Beatles fan." Oh. And ever since
he
then,
outed you.
You know what? Fuck the Beatles. If that's the way their fans are going to be, all you need is love, all you need is fuck you.
From that day forward, he was a Stones guy.
You know
what? You're damn right I was. Mick Jagger wouldn't have treated me that way.
He would have punched what the kid stained in the face.
Yeah, Mark Kutaka.
Mark Kutaka would have been beat down.
Well,
like
I felt like I had the last laugh because by the end of 8th grade, he was huffing Freon. So.
Oh, okay.
Still love the Beatles, though, didn't
So I got a story about loss of innocence, actually, now that I think about it.
All right, here I lose the virginity.
So, when I think I was in the 4th grade, which would put you at what age? Like,
10?
10?
No.
Yeah.
No, 4th grade, you're not 10 years old.
Yeah, sure you are.
I think you're 10.
When do you start
9,
school?
9, 10?
You start school when you're 5.
No, because junior high is about
12.
12. No, 6th grade is 12.
I graduated from junior high in 95.
Because I started high school when I was 14.
So 92, I would have been 11. That would have been 6th grade.
Okay, so then it's 9 or 10. Or, no.
Okay. We'll just say 9.
So 4th or 5th would have been 9 or 10.
Yeah, okay, so 9 or 10. So I really wanted a dog for Christmas. And so I just kept asking my parents over and over. And eventually what happened before Christmas even came, probably like a week or two before, I got a letter in the mail. And it was...
Santa.
The return address was from Santa, yes. And inside it, there was this really nice calligraphy, like art drawn letter that was just amazing looking, and it said, "I'm really sorry, Paul, but I can't take dogs on my sled," and stuff. And so I was like, "Oh my God, Santa sent me this fucking letter. It's amazing. It's so amazing." And so we had show and tell at school.
Oh no!
And I took this letter to school thinking, "Oh, the kids are going to be so jealous I got this."
You poor bastard.
And so I took it. And I showed it off. I was so impressed. Like, when I'm doing the speech, it's just like, "Oh, man, look at this. Look at this."
This explains so much.
Guys.
And then,
Here we are.
Santa sent me-
Irrefutable
yeah,
proof.
no. I was more naive than that. So I'm like, I got this letter. It's amazing. I got a letter from Santa. And then recess happened.
Oh.
And they were so merciless. Like, with just like, what the hell? Well, obviously, I'm using adult terminology for this, but it's like, what the fuck are you doing? There's no Santa. This is the most ridiculous thing ever. And like, I was just so embarrassed and so torn apart by this. And like, for years that shit bothered, well, maybe not for years, but it really bothered me for a long time. But now looking back on that, I'm like, wow, that was actually really nice what my parents did, right? Like, you know,
You still didn't get you a dog, though.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
only
they
you
eventually
had-
did. They eventually did.
Okay.
But
If only that you had told them that you were planning to use that for show and tell.
honestly, I think they had.
They probably wanted to see how it played out.
probably would have been.
They didn't want to tell Paul. Let the kids tell Paul.
Yeah, the kids take care of it.
Well, it's funny because when I was a kid, there were rumblings about Santa doesn't exist.
Rumblings.
Yeah, there always are. But
Since second or third grade, probably.
yeah, I was a bit late to the party.
About fourth grade for me.
I probably made it further than you did. I probably made it to like 10 or 11.
Oh, really?
And my uncle comes to me one Christmas, and my cousins, I think, are like 4 and 5 years younger than me, or 5 and 6 years younger than me. So he comes to me. He's like, "Listen, Santa's going to happen this year, and I don't want you spoiling it for the other kids that he's not real." And I'm just like, "Oh yeah, that he's not real."
Oh, wow. No magic in the
I
world.
know your pain, Scott. I know. But you know what? Honestly, I think not only do I think now looking back on it, it's a sweet story for what they did for me, but I also think it's a lesson in belief, right? So the Santa lie actually, I think, maybe actually led to my eventual, agnostic.
No,
Agnosticism?
Yeah,
that explains
it really-
so much.
It shows how you can be told something from a young age and you just accept it as true when it's complete fiction.
Now always doubt.
Yeah,
Always
doubt,
question.
doubt. So I think that my parents inadvertently taught me a very good lesson. They also taught me not to trust people and to think everyone's a fucking asshole. Right? But
Well, if they didn't teach you that, TV sure would.
life would teach me that eventually.
I discovered there was no Santa one year when my family was so poor they couldn't afford to get presents. And my dad said to me, "Sometimes Santa doesn't come."
Oh.
And I was like, wow. Okay. I guess that's just
So
not
he didn't
real.
play it off like you were a bad kid. He just
No,
said,
it's just sometimes Santa doesn't show up.
that's
Wow.
sad.
That's very Eastern European of him.
Yeah, I stopped believing after that.
Well, the problem is, I understand, like, couldn't they have at least gotten you something? I mean, something. You go to the dollar store. I guess back then they didn't have the dollar store, but just something, right? Like,
Gently used from the Goodwill.
yeah, something like that. Yes, or make you something,
Late
right?
Easter basket clearance.
My mom one year, she was raising me and my sister, just her, my dad. I don't know what my dad was doing, but anyways, she
Running with
had next to no
Watching
money.
Spice TV.
That's probably
The
explain why
life
we
of
didn't have
Riley.
Christmas that year. So basically, she broke it down to us like, I'm sorry. I mean, she was very broken up about it, how she couldn't afford to give us the Christmas that she wanted to give us, but she didn't. And keep in mind, we're in grade school age. She says, what I can do is I will give you a $50 gift card to Toys R Us. And you literally have no concept of money, and $50 suddenly sounds like like $1,000, and like,
that-
whoa,
it
sweet,
really was.
That was a lot of money. back
$50.
then.
And then we went to Toys R Us the next day, and I'd be like, Mom, can I afford this? And he's like, you can afford that. I'm like, yeah. And so they took that $50, and I essentially, I think, got maybe 2-3 good, decent-sized toys, but they were what I wanted to get, so that made it kind of
This
cool.
was the best Christmas ever.
What she was very, concerned about actually ended up making it not so bad. So,
Does it show gift cards are the best gift anyone can
they are. Fuck anyone who says differently.
That's the lesson we learned.
Gift cards are awesome.
Were you to have children, any of you, would you keep the Santa myth going?
I would I would do it all out though. I would do it so
Just
Nonsensically.
insane.
Yeah, like just insane. Like they would see Santa every year, and I'd hire somebody to come and talk to them, just so that eventually it would be all bullshit, right? Like I wouldn't do the myth like, oh, they just showed up.
Yeah.
I'd want
You want a legit Santa.
Yes, I'd want it to be so fun that they would just look back on it and think it was an amazing experience.
Or turn it into something like more than just, he's the red guy who shows up and gives you crap.
Yeah.
I think that
Like-
part of the myth makes it, I think it's too easy sometimes.
Right. I would probably even try, if I possibly could, I'd try to hire a reindeer. And
Jesus.
just to have somebody bring out a reindeer, you know what I mean? And then the kids
Just-
just go outside and feed
You know what
it.
would be even better is if you just had it kind of slowly walk in front of the house.
Like, you're right.
without
so,
him. So that way, he looks outside and he's like,
So it'd be like science.
How many
Yeah.
blitzen
As
you
fuck.
got?
Yeah.
Scare the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Or her. I don't know. For me, my choices, it's only halfway because I have a wife and she'll probably want certain things.
You'll
in a
want
certain
magic.
way. I would probably not proliferate the Santa myth. I would.
But when you hear people say that, like for me personally, it was a way to not believe things, right? It was a method for skepticism in my life. Isn't that a valuable lesson?
Sure, but I can introduce that without the Santa myth.
I don't know. I think that
what would your alternative to the Santa myth be then?
Yeah.
Now you've got me.
It'd be
Reeled me in.
Krampus? You do Krampus. I actually can see Rob doing Krampus.
Black Peter.
Yeah, no. You know what Krampus is, right?
Is that the one that hits people with
Yes.
sticks?
It's this
and back?
really evil version of
Right, there's
Santa
a movie coming out this October.
I think it's in the Netherlands, possibly. Well, that's where Black Peter is, right?
Yeah.
In the Netherlands. This is somewhere in the Europe. They have Krampus, which is if you're bad, instead of not getting anything, he actually comes and like murders you, or
They put you in a sack and hit you with a rod.
yeah, it's
Something like
really
that.
disturbing. And I can see Rob doing Krampus.
So be good.
Yes, be very good.
Your Joel
I-
Shock
you know,
battery level's getting low.
I know it is. The way I like right now, the way I think about
Is
what
that
I
a
would.
Zit cream pad?
No, it's a flour tortilla. God.
That rendering is not so good, huh?
Do you remember the Zit pads?
Oxypads?
Yeah,
Oxy.
Oxypads.
I had them.
Yeah.
They did not work.
They just made your skin sting.
Well,
yeah, they
I
did
learned,
burn, didn't they?
Oh,
I learned
yeah.
in hindsight.
That's how you know it was working.
I learned that in hindsight that just scalding yourself with caustics wasn't the full method of alleviating the pain of acne. Apparently, you also needed to moisturize, which I never knew. So I was just like applying Noxzema and using Oxypads to rub it in, and maybe a
Whoa.
light skin peel.
Yeah.
I had a bad acne problem.
I still
in
have acne
junior
scars.
high. It was rough. I had to go to a pharmacist for the good stuff.
Were you on? Retine?
Possibly.
Were you on?
It worked.
Accutane?
Whatever it was, it worked.
I was on both Accutane and Retine.
I think it was
One of
Accutane,
them-
actually.
One of them you couldn't even handle if you were even like thinking about having a child because it would give it birth defects.
Oh, really? I kind of
But flawless skin, strangely enough.
I dodged the acne bullet.
With your
What would that bullet
with
look
your
like?
perfect Sears catalog good looks?
I dodged that acne bullet. I didn't dodge the fat kid bullet though.
There's a couple bullets that hit you, unfortunately, Paul.
Yeah. The fat kid bullet was a big one. That was rough.
Yeah.
I honestly think I'd rather have. I don't know. Acne's pretty rough.
Acne is rough.
But being a fat kid sucks too, especially in junior high and high school.
See, I wasn't
Try
fat
being
till
the hairy
after.
kid in junior high.
I'm the hairy man. So.
I had like a 500-pound African American girl who just was. I exaggerate her weight. She was probably like 250, but she was merciless.
So she attacked you?
Yeah, she would call me hairy legs. I think
Which was probably because she was uncomfortable with herself, right? Like, ultimately.
maybe.
Well, you should look back on it like that,
Yeah.
you know, like... Because I think that is where people, when they attack other people...
It's because you have your own insecurities
Yeah,
and your
right.
own...
There was one time a kid caught me picking my nose. My
Jeff, you don't do that in public, man!
No, my nose was particularly dry, and I was delivering papers at the time.
Delivering papers.
Oh, wait, so you weren't at school?
No, I wasn't at school, but we went to school with this kid. And I was delivering the papers, and I was just kind of cleaning out a nostril. And he just rode by on his bike and said, "Nose picker!" And for 2 years of junior high, I was called nose picker by him and his crony friends.
The irony of that is that everyone picks their nose.
Oh, God, yes.
And they still do it, and it's that's the thing, children just...
Many people continue to eat it.
Oh, God.
That's gross. I was in the World Trade Center.
I like that you're about...
You have no idea where this is going.
I'd like to think you're about to equate nose picking
With 9/11.
Yeah.
to September
Yeah.
11th.
This was probably...
This was by September 11th.
Yeah.
I was at the World Trade Center, and this motherfucker was digging in there like he was digging for gold.
No. I was eating lunch at the World Trade Center with my family, and there was this. I don't want any more things.
Okay.
He had to have been like some stockbroker or worked at some firm there because he was wearing a very nice suit, and even as a kid, I was like, oh, he's really well dressed. He looks very upstanding, right? He was digging in there, and he not only was eating it, he was sticking a handkerchief up in his nose.
Yeah.
And then he was eating off the
Oh,
handkerchief.
get out of here.
I'm not kidding, Jeff. This is a real story.
This is a grown man. A
Yes,
professional.
this was a grown man.
How old were you?
I was probably about the time that Santa was destroyed for me.
It was a rough year.
Yeah, no, that was a shitty year. That's the year I also urinated in public. I could tell that story too. But, it was... watching that guy, I was laughing, and my family was like, "Don't look at him! Don't look at him!"
It'd be like end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. Jeff.
Face would melt.
Yeah.
But do you think? All right, you're
Yeah.
trying to put your mind in the booger eater. When he pulls out the cornucopia of riches from his nostril,
Yeah.
do you think he salivates? Do you think he gets excited?
Oh,
is
he has to because he knows that food's coming, right? It's a physiological response, right? It's
Pavlov's dog.
dogs, right? We're like that when we sit down to eat. I'm sure that the level of saliva in our mouth goes up on some level.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because we know. So if he's constantly eating boogers, he knows he's going to have to digest it, right?
I imagine I know what boogers taste like because I've.
Well, also when you get a cold, right? Like,
Yeah.
At some point,
You
it's
can't
probably
avoid
drip
it.
down into
Yeah.
there.
And it's not pleasant.
But I would imagine those boogers taste very different.
Do you think that it's more of a beefy?
I think the regular boogers are far more salty.
It's more like I was imagining it's like
So,
a soft
As
scab.
the brother of a frequent booger eater in our childhood,
Uh-oh.
I asked my brother, "Why do you eat?"
Putting
these
them on
fucking
blast
things?"
right now. All
And
right.
he told me because they're salty.
Oh, so it is salt. Okay. Yeah, when I was a kid, I think I tried them, definitely. I wouldn't say I didn't try
kids,
them.
Are you
kids
saying you
and-
experimented with boogers?
Yeah.
kids and adults,
Experimented with
who
It feels good to come
who,
clean.
who partake in the booger eating,
There's no
Yeah.
judgment here.
the scientists have actually said that it might be the same sort of thing that happens with people who eat like sand.
Oh, so they're lacking some sort of nutrient.
Right, they're lacking sodium in their diet, and so they are trying.
Well,
it's like an automatic, primitive, instinctual thing. Like there's salt here, I'm going to take
Right.
it.
So, well, that's also people that eat paint chips and things that contain
Glue.
iron because they have low
Right.
iron.
Exactly.
Well, that's-
Even dogs, there's some that theorize that they eat grass because they're trying to supplement things that they're lacking in their
Or
diet.
their
I
own
always
poop.
heard they want to vomit. That's a way to.
I was assuming
my
sick.
dog Dusty eats grass all the time, and actually eats it because he needs fiber, and he's not getting it.
Why are you not giving him fiber?
Well, we try to give him as much fiber as we can in the dog food we give him, but there's like
You
only
can
so
supplement
much.
carrots. Carrots are great.
We started feeding him carrots, and he threw those up.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So yeah,
Well, he's kind of old, so he's got an old person gut, right?
probably yeah. And his previous owner didn't really put in the effort,
Not naming names.
so.
Same man that ruined Christmas.
This conversation all started because I was asking when your innocence ended, and I never got a chance to mention
Yeah, I was
how
gonna
mine.
want to go for it.
Okay.
So my brother and I used to play with our toys all the time. We would make big productions out of it. We would have this cast of
Oh,
thousands.
kind of your own puppet Sluppet Land.
So we had action figures, and we would
Judgy.
we would act out stuff. We would actually even have a soundtrack. We had an old tape player, and we would the latest thing that we were into. I remember specifically we're super into the TMNT live show.
Oh, coming out of their shells.
Yeah, coming out of the shells, and we would play that all the time, and we would play with our Ninja Turtles. But there was one day where we tried to get something going, and he was going in one direction in terms of like the storyline, I would go in another direction, and then we suddenly realized that...
Of course, this is how you lost your innocence.
We suddenly realized this wasn't working anymore. We couldn't like come to a consensus.
We're gonna go a different direction.
Yeah, we didn't have like a passion behind it anymore.
Do you remember
And
specifics?
we just literally put down our toys and said, "You want to watch something?" And we just that's how it ended.
Do you remember both sides? Because I can judge right now who had the better side with storyline. Who was in the right?
Yeah, we can vote on it.
Do you remember?
I
Don't recall?
Can
I don't recall.
we do a McJeffrey 500 instant poll? Let's put it to the internet.
You know what? I'm gonna, without even hearing it, I bet Rob had the better storyline.
My brother was 2 years.
I bet it
younger
was
than me.
dark and Orwellian.
Yeah. It was about Krampus.
Yeah.
I will give Toy Story 3 one thing.
Are we
that-
still watching that?
Yeah, surprisingly enough.
The beauty of the group podcast is we can talk
That,
about whatever we want.
That it
All right, folks. Just so you know, we're at 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 30 seconds right now.
one thing that Disney did really well with this movie is that more so than some of the other Pixar
Was it
films,
Disney?
or I guess Pixar
Yeah.
that did this. And Jerry Stiller, you know, no
Good old Jerry Stiller.
no small part. But this movie really built the terror very nicely. Like, it built tension. Like, there were some scenes of this that when I was talking to people who had kids in my office, they talked about seeing it with their kids, and they were like, yeah, my kids are screaming.
It is
in the
actually,
theater.
it's pretty dark at parts.
This is the climactic scene. I'll save my.
We
thoughts.
will actually talk about the movie at this point. That point.
Yeah, because I want to mention the what keeps this movie from becoming like a movie that I like versus a movie that I tolerate.
Paul's left.
Yeah, Paul's left. He's gonna go to the bathroom and cry about his lost innocence. In that time, he witnessed somebody eating his fucking boogers off a handkerchief.
in the World Trade Center. Like, that's his.
That was the real tragedy, really.
That's the tragedy, is that they took the
So
building
he
from
stuck it
him
in
so he
there,
could
and he stuck it in there. I wondered, did he stare at it first? Like,
No, it's like saying, like, oh, the choices here. Because I assume boogers come in all shapes and sizes, right? I mean,
yeah, clumpy.
some are like wet.
Yeah.
Some have like a
A little more gooey,
mucusiness.
a little more gooey. Some are dry as fuck.
Some are like basically like
Some
nose
sort of air
scabs.
attached to him.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
There
making
are
my
some-
mouth water.
There are some that believe that those who consume their own mucus, that it contributes to their immunity.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that too. That's the whole idea of the bacteria in your belly thing, where people are doing bacteria transplants. Like, oh, you're missing this bacteria in your belly. Let's get the bacteria from this stool sample of this other individual and put it into your gut. And see how it
That
goes.
seems a bit.
How are we gonna do that? Eat it.
You know what?
Does your brother get sick often?
No, he never got
Oh,
sick.
thank you, boogers.
He was also into eating ants.
I don't
Well,
see that.
I mean, chimps eat ants, so there might be something to it.
He said that he would eat ants, and the reason why I liked it because they tasted. They had a metal taste.
So he weird.
It's very
Would he eat him
specific.
alive?
Huh?
Alive?
Well, yeah, he would take him off the tree and put it in his mouth.
Do you witness this?
Yes.
Brother,
We were in school. There was a point where we were in the same elementary school, and there was this part of the school that was all the way in the corner, away from the classrooms, away from the playground where the asphalt was, and it was just trees. And he would go to that spot with his friends, and one time I went over there to see what he was doing, and he was literally picking ants off of the tree trunk and putting it in his mouth.
Paul's rejoined us. Paul, when you see the World Trade Center now, do you get a little extra choked up because there's nothing that can, erase that memory now?
do you think that guy might have been in the World Trade Center that day?
That fateful
I don't know.
day.
Is this too soon?
No, it's been a
No,
decade.
it's been over a decade.
No, it's possible he was. I mean, he looked like if you're that comfortable in there, and I also remember he was eating by himself.
Coincidence?
Yeah. So
Nobody wants to sit with the booger eater. At lunch.
I don't
So
know.
he had like a real lunch.
I don't
sandwich.
actually remember that. But
And the
I
boogers
also-
were like his dessert.
It
Or
must
maybe
have
his
been.
appetizer.
It must have been.
Or his appetizer, yeah.
It was shocking, even for a young man.
Were you confused? Did you?
No, I just thought it was really funny, and it was sort of that weird thing where you see an adult doing something that you wouldn't think an adult would do, and he was so uninhibited. It was almost like that guy's sort of my hero.
Well, have you
now,
seen
right?
the video of that woman eating the foot rot off her foot in the bus or in the train?
No, that wasn't on a required viewing.
There's a video.
That's
It's on
on
YouTube.
chart.
What's foot rot? First of all,
It's
Joe?
the kind of the dry, callousy stuff
Yeah.
on the heel of your foot.
Like, I would assume it would include like corns, bunions.
Oh.
Yeah,
God.
so she's reading a book and she's sitting, which I think it's probably a train or subway.
She's got a sandal
and
on.
she, yeah, I think her sandal is actually off, and she's nonchalantly, not even like breaking character, just pulling foot rot off her foot and putting it in her mouth and eating it like she's eating fruit snacks.
Does anyone actually say anything to her?
No, obviously the
Come on.
person caught her, unbeknownst to her, on their phone camera, and now it's been seen by many people and has disgusted many.
What does she look like?
She
Up
looks
on the
like
climax
looks
for
like
you.
somebody's mom, who probably is nobody's mom.
I believe this may be the scene that you were just discussing.
We're
Rob.
closing in on it, so let's actually talk about the
they're
movie
at
for a
the
second.
At the dump, and the scene I'm mostly going to be referring to is when they actually get to the incinerator.
Oh yeah, that's the one memorable scene from this. I remember really well. Is them at the edge of the incinerator. I actually thought, maybe.
That's what I was going to talk about. Might as well start talking about it. That's the point where the movie had an opportunity to turn into a movie that I liked versus a movie I tolerate. If they had
Actually,
Consequences.
quote
there was that
unquote, killed them.
consequence where
yeah,
they
but
ended
kids
up.
would not. That wouldn't play well.
But
Well, you don't have to see him fucking
No,
melt.
you would
You're
see
gonna him
Woody's like
fucking
eye because it burns down
No,
like a
you-
Terminator.
No, you would have a close up of the eye and then fade to black, or fade to white because of the red hot heat, and that would have been just fine.
That would have been
Yeah,
exceptionally traumatizing. But there was a time when kids' movies were not afraid to traumatize people on occasion.
Particularly Disney movies. Bambi's mother.
Now, to be
Those-
fair,
pretty much any mother
Yeller-
we have gone through
Yeller.
movies to get to know these characters, so we have a
Mufasa.
little bit more at stake than, say, Bambi's mom.
See, but actually, I think Old Yeller is the perfect.
I love Old Yeller.
because ultimately that's the end of the movie, right? These
No, he gets the puppy at the very end.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, these other examples you're bringing up are all very early on traumatic events.
Sure.
To
So you
have it
have
at the
things to
end
redeem.
leaves you exactly.
Yeah.
It redeems itself by being uplifting the rest of the movie. With something like Old Yeller, it's. I mean, yeah, I don't. Does he get a puppy at the end?
He does.
Okay, but this.
Gentle Ben. Did that end poorly? Seems
Never
like
saw
that
it.
should have.
Yeah, what was that one?
That was the one
That
with
was
the bear.
The Boy and His Bear.
My favorite
Should've
Disney
ended better.
cartoon was always Fox and the Hound, and that's a
That's a great
very
movie.
melancholy ending.
Very underrated.
And I felt that's perfect way to sort of end. It's not really a happy ending because they don't rekindle their friendship, but they have that moment at the end where they have this mutual respect and walk away from each other.
Don't you think it's good to teach kids lessons?
Yeah.
From and maybe the generation now isn't getting those.
But
lessons.
here's the thing. You know who would be complaining about this? Wouldn't be the kids. It would be the fucking parents now.
Exactly. But now you have the trophy generation, right? You have everyone gets
Like,
to participate.
how dare you upset my child?
Here's the thing. Though.
You're very much into what James Harrison did. Sent back all of
I
his
agree
kids.
with that.
But here's the thing,
I agree
though.
with that. I don't think people should be rewarded for just showing up because ultimately that's an unfair. What you're doing is training them that life is going to be fair and it's always going to be balanced, right?
Not necessarily.
Oh, come on.
Here's the contra to that. Specifically with the kid that he took the trophy from was 6 years old. Have you tried to get a 6-year-old to do anything for an entire season?
But
let alone committing to a sport.
See, here's the thing: is it the point?
You need to incentivize.
No, you
need to
don't.
incentivize.
I did that stuff. I was in bowling leagues as a kid. I was in sports leagues. I did them all because I wanted to. And if the kid didn't want to do it, you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. Right?
I agree with that, but at the same time, I think that you can.
Has there ever been a better vision of hell
get in their life?
Executed?
And the kids know that it's just
pretty good.
Not a
I don't know that
trophy.
they do. I honestly think that some of these kids are going to be growing up thinking that they're the greatest because they were raised to think they're the greatest.
Well, I think if your parents build you a trophy case to participation trophies, then yes, that is too much. But I think if the parent doesn't draw any attention to it, you're just like, yeah, here's a trophy. Big deal.
If I have kids, I'm going to put them in leagues that don't give them trophies unless they earn them.
I do object to,
See, this is about accepting.
See, this
staring into the void.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
accepting it.
This is when they all joined hands. This is when I thought maybe,
maybe. Watch me.
And the big cop out, which is that you're supposed to go yay, but in my mind I'm going, this fucking clown.
Maybe we've just gotten too old and jaded.
See, this is... You're right, Rob. I don't know how the kid version of me would have reacted to this. I think I would have appreciated it. But the adult... the adult version of me wanted these things to die.
I think you would have respected it if you lost even one.
Yeah, grown.
Don't you think this is a symptom just like trophies?
Though I guess the claw's almost full circle if they were to actually stop at 3.
That we're coddling children too much.
Oh, God, we are.
They are incapable of anything scary or things that might make them think about their lives. And, how did these 3 get up into the control room? And then how did they know how to operate this
Here's
machine?
the thing.
Perfectly?
Because they were operating in the first movie. It's a nice callback.
It is
It works.
I don't remember the callback, but...
That's
it
where the
works,
aliens
but
came
ultimately
from, was a claw machine.
it robs the film of poignancy.
Well, it does have the very end where he gives the toys away as its own poignancy. It's different, but...
How many of us gave our toys away like that?
I think
My mom just threw mine away.
Yeah, they went into the incinerator.
that's the reality of it.
But it's the thing, I didn't even notice, until, maybe a year later, hey, where
Exactly, and that's what the ending of the movie should be. They go into the incinerator. Andy is having sex at college. He doesn't think about his toys, right?
Sex toy story!
Or maybe he has a fleeting nostalgic remembrance.
Like he's
of
hanging
them.
out with his friends, getting drunk, doing a shitty podcast, and he talks about the toys he loves, right?
That's right.
I wasn't talking about your podcast.
Of course not. If you said shitty.
Well played, Jeff.
And here's that moment.
Oh, strawberry.
I do appreciate that they added Timothy Dalton to this series and this movie.
Who did he play?
He played the porcupine,
Oh.
or the hedgehog.
Oh, yeah. We totally...
They also added Kristen Shaw as the Triceratops.
And Michael Keaton as Ken. Yeah, got some good voices up in here.
Jerry Stiller.
Jerry
Always phenomenal.
Jerry Stiller doing
Was this part of Michael Keaton's comeback from obscurity? This and Other Guys? In
It's,
his obsession with TLC?
I don't know if he was ever obscure.
I just think he
He went right to like HBO movies.
Yeah, he took a break.
He did like The Merry Gentleman and Gave Him 6. He did smaller films. But,
Obscurity.
Technically, I would say Birdman is sort of an obscure movie, right? Like,
No, when a movie wins Best
no, I mean,
Picture
it started
Oscar-
off like that's not.
No, it was never.
no,
was,
it had a pedigree.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
It definitely had a cast, and not. I mean, it would be one thing if it was Michael Keaton
And then a bunch of
A bunch of
nobody.
stage hands. But you had Emma Stone and
Plus, you had
Norton.
the director of
And Jerry
fucking
Stiller.
Babel.
Just
And Jerry
fabulous.
Stiller was in it.
Was she playing Asian in that movie?
Who, Emma
That's
Stone?
Aloha.
Yeah, that was Aloha.
Oh, poor Cameron Crowe.
Yeah, that was a joke.
Oh, it's a bad joke.
No, I think it was pretty good. It was subtle.
I thought it was.
If we didn't bring
I
attention
thought you were
to
being serious, brah.
Sometimes my humor does't translate.
It's very dry.
Yep.
sometimes it's not. It's barely humor.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, maybe in the fourth movie we'll get consequences.
I'm trying to think what the fourth movie's. Where did they go?
I mean, we didn't even lose Jim Varney's character when he died.
See, they got rid. Like in Cars 2, did they get rid of George
Newman,
Carlin's
Paul Newman.
VW bus, or is he still around?
Paul Newman's car is gone too.
Carlin-
I've never seen either one of the cars. Is it?
The first one was good.
I always thought it was a bit childish, like just looking at the trailers.
I
For a
actually.
kid,
I mean,
I'm
I
setting
don't
the
know.
bar
I
a
haven't
kids
seen
movie. And I'm just like, okay.
I will say I don't hate Cars. There's definitely more worse movies to put your energies towards disliking, but maybe that's just it. I feel more here nor there with the Cars movies. Whereas I've generally liked. Feel like Cars the same way I feel like Bug's Life. Like, yeah, take it or leave
So
it.
is Cars like Pixar slumming it, where they don't have as much of the
Technically, I guess it's their most profitable films
Right,
because
Yeah,
of the
it's
all the
toys.
merchandise.
it's the
I felt
mostly
two
appealing
was-
to children, right?
It also happens to be the only one directed by the one of the main co-founders, John Lasseter. That's his
That's his baby.
That's his
You
baby.
don't know how to make movies.
2, I felt, was scraping more at the bottom of the barrel.
2 is
than the
it's
first.
Never
just
seen
Larry
it.
the Cable Guy's showcase. Which who wants that really?
So the fourth Toy Story,
America.
from what I'm reading, is that it's going to be a love story between.
Buzz
Woody
and Woody.
No, yeah, right. Gotta be progressive. No, it was going to be between Woody and
Bo Peep.
Bo Peep. Yeah. Bo
What?
Peep.
And Bo Diddley. Blues musician. Bo
Look how old that
Diddley.
dog is. That dog should be dead.
Wait, no. Dog can be old. It was a puppy in the first movie. It was like the last scene. That was 95. That dog's 20. Wait.
He's
what,
going to
20 years old?
college, so he's got to be like 19 at this point.
Didn't you
Yeah.
ever see my dog Skip? That dog got old. He went
And
to
that
college.
dog died.
After he went to college?
No, but that's the point.
Is
It's
the
like
dog
that.
dying because of Winn-Dixie? They may see that the Dave Matthews movie.
No.
My dog Skip though. That was
That's a schnauzer, right?
that was a
Was
sad
that
movie.
Frankie Muniz?
Yes,
my
that
dog
was
Skip.
Frankie Muniz.
That movie made me cry.
Yeah, because at the end the dog's like laying on his bed wanting him to come back.
No,
And then
the
he
worst part is the
dies.
dog can't get on the bed. He's trying
Oh,
to jump
that's
on the
right,
bed.
yeah.
He's too old. And then Kevin Bacon, the father who hasn't liked the dog for the majority of the film,
Right.
actually helps him up on the bed so he can lay down and die.
Die on the kid's bed. Those are kids movies.
Oh, dude.
That's good kids movies.
Teaches you a lesson.
Dog's
Well, it
dead.
does ultimately that everything is fleeting, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate
Well,
you,
what you got.
you got a dog that's pretty old. My sister just adopted an 8-year-old dog that for my niece that will probably be dead before she graduates. So yeah, it's an important lesson. The hardest things in life, I had to put my dog to sleep, and that to this day is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Now I'm all depressed.
Yeah, having to hold the dog's mouth shut and cover his nose.
No, the biggest
Sorry,
lie
Liz.
that
Good story.
and I don't know if I mentioned this. I probably mentioned it on some podcasts, but when they do the shit where they take the eyelids and close them, the shit doesn't work.
I've heard this, but I say it again because I like it.
I got
I
upset.
like what you said.
I was like, I was crying. I held my dog when they gave the dog the shot, and I screamed, "I'm sorry." And she fell. It's like almost like it was an on-off switch. And I was trying to close the eyes dramatically, like they do in the movies, the eyelids, and they just kept popping back up. I was like, why are the eyes not closing?
I don't want those eyes staring at
And
me.
I remember that doctor because he actually tried to talk us out of putting her to sleep because he already put 2 other dogs to sleep that day and he was done with it. But you know how hard it was to come to that decision that we were going to do that? And to have a guy try to talk us out of it? Oh my
He's
god.
like, I've seen enough death today. I've dealt enough death
And when he
today.
administered the shot, he just like, I'm sorry. He walked out of the room, he just looked like totally deflated, like, I hate my job.
No. He probably did that to be respectful.
No, he was. He left me, and then my mom left me alone, and I was in the room with my dog for like...
The worst is when you walk in on someone putting their dog down.
Oh God!
Our dog was feeling kind of ill, and we went down to the emergency vet clinic. And the one in South Sacramento, which was the closest one to where we were at that time, you can tell by their rates why it's such a nice building with like 2 automatic doors on either side of the building, and it has this courtyard for you to spend your last moments. But the problem is that they didn't put like a flush wall on that courtyard. So like I walk out to take a phone call about something not important, and I walk out and I'm like, oh, this is a nice quiet spot, and I turn the corner and I see the family with their dog just like on their knees laying next to the dog, just like, and they're all just consumed with emotion, and I'm just like, oh, crap. So I'm just like, I need to go somewhere else.
Oh.
So Mueller Pet Center.
Be careful where you take your phone
Yeah,
calls.
if you're thinking of putting a cherished pet down,
Be aware.
be forewarned.
I took my dog to the place right next to the Alberto's on Manzanita. And
Is
me
that
and,
back alley someplace?
no, it's a vet, but me and Eric sometimes would go late night for burritos or carne asada fries because they're 24 hours, and we'd hang out outside while he smoked his cigarette.
Left?
Oh yeah.
People
Oh,
got
yeah.
that.
Well, now there's like Adalberto's.
And Alberto's, Alberto's. Yeah.
California burrito.
But we'd be outside, he'd be smoking a cigarette, and I would stare next door at the vet, and you see the big oven where they no
Where they
doubt
cooked your dog?
took my dog, incinerated, like
he had
something
his
out of
own
a
Toy Story.
Holocaust film.
Toy Story 3. He had his own Toy Story 3.
Yeah,
Toy
except
Story
that
3.
had no happy ending.
Yeah.
Nobody would want to play with my dead dog, I guess.
There's Timothy Dalton.
Good old Timothy Dalton. So he has this last moment to play with his toys.
So we're at an hour and 30
About 10 minutes
It's
left.
too late now.
And we're about to hit an hour and 33 minutes in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Boom.
Start the movie. Watch the last 9 minutes for us.
Watch the last 9 minutes.
Yeah, it's the most
Sob.
emotional. It's the most emotional.
Did you guys ever have a Mr. Potato Head?
Yes.
She's got like a fucking
I have the last
embarrassment of riches right now.
I have the last kind of weird looking Mr. Potato Head with the odd shaped body with like the peg feet.
Oh, I remember that
Before
one.
it became that version of Mr. Potato Head with the saucy bowler hat and round cartoonish.
At least it wasn't the original one where you had to use
Potato Head Children.
a legit potato.
Do you remember that cartoon, the Potato Head Children?
No.
It was just terrible. You can't go back.
No, you can't.
And that's what the lesson of these movies might not be.
No.
I've never been like grateful to a toy to the extent that
Rob's confessing right now.
But in
Andy.
sex toys.
I've never like audibly thanked a toy.
Oh, neither have I. Keep that shit to myself.
Maybe for smiting your enemies.
Alright, so as we wrap up, Toy Story 3. Such a wealth of information on this movie. But possibly the greatest podcast of all time.
I thought this was an excellent podcast.
That's what the movie should be, is a spurning of thought, and we would go and off on tangents more than
We
actually
did. We talked about
commenting on the movie.
loss of innocence, boogers.
Let's be honest. If they truly want a commentary on this film,
Listen to the
there's
comments.
probably a commentary track, right?
Yeah, I'm sure Lassiter has something on here. I'm sure
Maybe Jerry Stiller.
Andrew Stanton.
Well, he's on every commentary track.
Do you find that it's so annoying? Not this particularly, but
Randy Newman.
No. When they do cartoon movies and then they do outtakes of like flubs.
Oh, they started that with The Bug's Life, didn't they?
But
no, they started that with
it's just
first
so
Toy Story.
annoying that like
These aren't real.
You know, they had to animate this. This isn't real. That's it negates the whole point of doing outtakes, right?
Well, maybe there's moments in the recording.
Okay, if that's what it was, but some of those outtakes they show on movies are bits, like somebody's nose will fall off.
gags, yeah.
Yeah, it's just not fun.
Well, I think
It's funny for the kids.
Patton Oswalt, when he did Ratatouille, talked about that they had this whole separate session where they called him back in, and basically they just screamed funny stuff off camera. He's like, that's what you do? That, you know, you can just take things that are otherwise not funny and yell stuff at it, and it's, which, I mean, Mystery Science Theater proved, but I think that it's just been born of that it's just like, well, this isn't a good enough concept for the movie, so, but we want to do this dumb bit, so where else are we going to put it?
But oftentimes it's not even a bit. It's like they'll pretend they flub a line.
So
or
like
something.
you hear the bleep.
Yeah. It's
Well, then is the real culprit that we bury Cannonball Run 2? Isn't that where all the outtake nonsense came from?
Cannonball Run 2 is a great movie.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen the first one, but I have seen the second for
It was
some reason.
both Cannonballs that they did the outtakes during the credits.
But isn't that because of Jackie Chan doing it in his early movies?
No, there was like a lot of flubbed stuff with like
they were drunk when they did
Dom
that entire
DeLuise
movie. I
and-
mean, you had Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. just
Well, the
bombed.
gag reel is something that was highly popular back as far back as the 30s and 40s, but they were like special reels that were only shown to the actual stars of this particular studio, and then they became something that you shared with the audience as well.
So it was just taking him inside baseball.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff that you're not supposed to see, you can see now, and it became popular.
I don't even on real movies. I don't really find gag reels all that funny.
Gang rape?
I find gang rape funny.
Yeah. So it's
What, you don't
hard-
even like the Jackie
hard
Chan
to find
stuff?
humor in such a thing.
Jackie Chan gang rape humor.
It's amazing.
Was that on the Rumble in the Bronx director's cut?
Of course.
What was the name of the big guy who was in not Walker Texas Ranger but Martial Law?
Sammo Hung?
Sammo Hung, yeah, him.
What
Gang
the
raped by Sammo
fuck are
Hung.
you guys talking
It
about?
was a CBS show.
Lesser comedic martial arts.
He was a big man who could do
He can move.
amazing things.
You guys are just making this up.
No, Sammo Hung. It was like
What?
Pretty
First of all,
amazing.
what's the name you're saying?
Marshall
Sammo
Sammo Hung.
Sammo
Sammo.
Yeah, his
H-U-N-G.
first name is
H-U-N-G.
Sammo. His last name Hung.
And he was big, like
He was
fat,
he was
or
a
like,
big guy.
He was corpulent.
Portly fellow.
but he was like a ninja.
He was a Jackie Chan
He
guy.
knew kung fu, yes.
Like a Jet Li.
That
Or
sounds
the
interesting. He was on a show.
Yeah, called Martial Law. It was a
inspired
back-to-back
by,
with Walker,
you
Texas
know,
Ranger.
Yeah, Walker.
It was like a
Texas.
spin-off.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
believe
like
he showed
Nash
up in
Bridges,
Walker.
all
It was
that
around
crap.
the time where they had, like, all the cop shows had their gimmick.
Kelly
like,
who?
Pacific Blue.
Kelly who was in it?
The great Kelly Hu
I
from
don't know
Super
who
Cop.
that is.
Oh man, Kelly who?
Kelly, I'm thinking Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
Who's Kelly Hu?
Kelly Hu was the one who played Lady Deathstrike and
Oh.
first
X2.
X-Men and
X2.
Got it.
I
She
thought-
wasn't in the first X-Men movie.
She wasn't?
There was no Lady Deathstrike in
Oh,
that.
then she was just in the second one. She was also on Jonathan Silverman's last television show.
What was
Which,
that?
God, what was it called?
I vaguely remember it.
It was on CBS. So it
CBS.
it was geared towards, 50 to 80 somethings.
All right.
Like, remember Jonathan Silverman? Wasn't he kind of
He,
handsome?
he was a thing for a while.
I saw Brian Beach memoirs. I thought he had a lot of promise.
You're really gonna bring that up? I would think you'd do Weekend at Bernie's.
We don't speak a Weekend at Bernie's.
Why?
It's a terrible movie.
Okay, so
It definitely didn't fulfill its promise.
I don't remember the sequel, but was Bernie still in the sequel?
Yes, he
Yes.
was.
How did they preserve that corpse?
Voodoo magic,
Is it? Are you serious?
kind of. Yes.
We
Voodoo is
had
involved in the
We had a
second.
Weekend at Bernie's incident in real life recently with the the former leader of Al Qaeda being trotted around like he was still alive.
Oh, really?
Did they bring him to a party where he danced?
Yeah, he was signing a peace. He was in peace talks between Al Qaeda and the United States.
How'd
No,
they
he
go?
wasn't.
No, I'm not kidding.
No, he
And then it was
wasn't.
revealed he was dead, and they're like, "Who?"
He
who
found
is-"
peace.
Oh, so it was a look-alike.
It wasn't a look like he
They
never
just
showed
brought
up.
the corpse and just
They brought
had him
it-
hanging
But
out.
the joke was that they were pulling. The United States was pulling a Weekend at Bernie's.
All right, I'm gonna wrap things up now.
Are we going to talk through the credits?
That's a lot of credits, dude.
Yeah,
This thing's already creeping
Yeah.
on 2 hours.
We got only 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
All right. So, any last words on Toy Story 3?
Would have been nice if it was the last one. So I have to fucking. Put
I
up
think
with
it's
it
fallen
anymore.
off a little bit, and maybe it's because we didn't watch the movie.
Yeah,
But
maybe
like,
because
kind of
we tore it down
attention
the
to
entire
it,
time.
and hearing your talking points that elucidate why there weren't as many consequences, it probably loses a step or two
Okay.
for me.
Yeah, as you're watching the movie for the first time, you're intrigued by the Great Escape-esque sort of storyline that they got going. You're intrigued by it, the possibility that there might be finality, and then it's taken away from you, but it's taken away in such a way that's a callback to something you loved from the first flick, which was the aliens and the claw.
Unless you're Paul and you
just
don't
amazing
remember
to
it.
me.
So you immediately forgive it.
It's amazing to me that movies are proving, even though, like, we thought that Police Academy 7 was the lesson, right? That when... if
Let
you're
the mission to Moscow.
If you're putting a number that high after a movie, it's just going to be terrible, right? That we have movies like the Harry Potter series that went 8 strong, right?
See, but that was a self-contained story, right?
I
Like-
understand.
So then, Fast 7. Those movies have gotten better.
No,
The
no, no.
further along you've
Because
gone.
it used to be that it's a sequel. There's no way it's going to be. And we've all but conquered that.
Yeah. Because what was
And now we
happening,
can look forward to
the mentality behind sequels back in the day was
the 18th
same
best-
thing, but bigger and better.
Okay.
Now, sequels are about continuing the story.
Just trying to wrap up, man.
All right.
Fucker.
He said
On-
okay and all right.
Okay.
Can't wait till the 8th.
On that note,
Okay.
for
can't-
Paul,
on
for
that
Rob,
note-
for Scott,
on
for
that
me, I bid you.
OCP Podcast!
Brought to you by the 18th best exotic marigold hotel.
And the 100-yard walk.
Thanks,
Is that what that's
Engineer
called?
Travis,
Don't know what you're talking
That chef movie with,
with
old,
whom this podcast would
the
not be
Indian
possible.
guy and the old
I
lady.
saw that movie.
And
What's
the
it called,
theme
Jeff?
music
The 100. I don't remember.
provided.
100-yard walk or something.
Brian Austin.
I bid you adieu.